For the second time in a matter of days, the world has gotten a glimpse of Kim Jong-un's daughter. It has raised questions about why she is appearing in public, now. It's also fueled speculation over his potential succession plans. In one photo that was released by state media, the father and daughter pair were seen posing by a truck that was loaded with a large intercontinental ballistic missile, we believe. Kim's daughter is believed to be around 9 years old. Remember, she was seen publicly for the first time with her dad at a missile test site in recent days. So joining us now to talk about this mysterious public appearance is Newsweek columnist Gordon Chang. He is the author of the books Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, and The Coming Collapse of China, two very important topics for us today. So I just want to start with what we are seeing with his daughter appearing in public, because it's a break from precedent of what we've seen past leaders in North Korea do, where typically they haven't appeared with their children in this way unless they were confirmed to be their successor. What do you make of this?
Well, the most likely explanation, Caitlin, is that little Jew A is his successor. But this is North Korea, so probably the most likely, the most common sense answer probably is wrong. You know, it could also have something to do with Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong, who is extremely capable and seemingly ambitious. And maybe Kim Jong-un is telling her to back away, forget about taking over if Kim Jong-un passes. Remember, Kim Jong-un is a series of medical problems, diabetes, heart issues, some other things as well. And so succession is a matter of some importance in North Korea right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we had just learned about his daughter not that long ago from Dennis Rodman. We really didn't know much about her. What do we know? And what have you learned? Because these photos are being released by state media. It seems obviously quite intentional.
Yeah, we don't know very much, except that she's probably 9 or 10 years old. Rodman is the reason why we know her name. And the thing that's really interesting about these photos is that the mother who was with them at the time is not in the picture. So, we have to figure out what that means. But right now, we know very little except that Kim Jong-un has 3 children. They're all very young. None of them are of the point where they could actually be groomed for succession. So the designation of one of them is really unusual.
Well, this coupled with what Kim Jong-un and the regime said over the weekend very explicitly about wanting to be the foremost world nuclear power. How do you think that this ties into that?
Well, the pictures of the daughter are both in connection with the Hwasong-17, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile, been tested 3 times, been successful twice. And this is a missile that can reach any part of the United States. Obviously, because North Korea is so small, its economy is puny, it could never become have the world's largest arsenal, which is what Kim Jong-un was bragging about.
Yeah.
But we also got to remember that Kim is a proxy for what could be the world's largest arsenals together, which is China. And Russia. So we've got to be concerned that Kim Jong-un is signaling that he has the support of both Beijing and Moscow.
Good morning, Gordon. It's good to see you again. I want to ask you about these protests in China and Hong Kong. You've worked for almost 2 decades there, and this is what you tweeted on Sunday. You said the 3rd Chinese Revolution has started. How significant are these protests, do you think, and how does it compare to previous protests from years past?
This is extremely serious for the Communist Party, Don. Many people compare them to 1989, the Tiananmen massacre. But I think that they're more serious than that. They go back to 1949. 1949 is when the communists took power. And they took power despite confronting a superior force, which was the nationalists of Chiang Kai-shek. And the nationalist forces actually melted away because, as one great Chinese historian has said, the nationalists had lost people's hearts. And what we saw since Thursday with this protest over the fire is that the Communist Party has lost the hearts of the Chinese people. In 1989, protesters didn't demand that the Communist Party leave power. They're doing that right away now on the streets in China. The Communist Party's got to be extremely concerned.
Is that what you see as the key difference here, that they are willing, some of them, to say that Xi Jinping should step down?
Yes, and remember, they do this at great risk to themselves because China is a total surveillance state. The Communist Party can recognize everybody in the crowd, what they're saying, what they're doing, and what they're doing can put them away for decades. There's a boldness in the Chinese people right now. It can fade. It could very well fade because of the anger over the fire can dissipate. But we do know that this will come back because the Chinese people have made it very clear they do not want the Communist Party and they don't want Xi Jinping and they want to govern themselves.
And you want President Biden to weigh in. What do you think he should say here?
I think he should privately say to Xi Jinping that the use of force against the Chinese people will result in severe consequences, like the severing of relations with China. It's in our interest to make sure that this is resolved peacefully. And I would hope that President Biden, who has concentrated on working with allies, is on the phone with our friends and partners around the world to get them to say the same things to China. We do not need another Tiananmen Square massacre, and we certainly don't need someone like George H.W. Bush telling Deng Xiaoping, the Chinese leader, that it's okay that you kill the Chinese people. That is just morally wrong.
Gordon, can that successfully be done when you have, for example, the German chancellor was just there, right, and just made another big economic deal with China? If you have the U.S. saying one thing and yet our allies, big economies in Europe, still, having these increasing ties to China, what message does that send?
Yeah, Chancellor Scholz's visit to Beijing was certainly disappointing, but we got to remember that the Chinese and the Europeans were set to have this comprehensive agreement on investment in December 2020, which was a real slap to then incoming President Biden. And the Chinese, through just terrible diplomacy, pushed the Europeans away. They're going to do that again, Poppy. So I sort of think that the United States can exercise a lot of influence. And remember, right now, the Russians and the Chinese are working together, and that means that it's easier for President Biden to get the West to work together as well.
Gordon Chang, thank you on all these fronts.
Appreciate it.